Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I'm playing a little bit of Rainbow Depths. Someone in my Discord is going to Eternal Weekend and wants to take something that looks a little bit like this, and I had this in my queue anyway to play, so I've just sort of moved it up a bit and here we are. So, this is the Dark Depths combo that you've seen many times on the channel before, where we have Dark Depths, comes in with some counters on it. If we get rid of the counters, then we get a 20/20. So we either make a copy that has no counters, or we remove all the counters with Hexmage. We've got a bunch of tutors to make that happen, but where this build differs is we have a lot more fast mana because we're adding in Simian Spirit Guides, which then gives us access to Minsc Boo, which is just a one-card win condition all on its own that you can just power out and it does great things. Alternatively, you can also use this to sacrifice your Marit Lage and dome your opponent for 20. So you can make this in your turn and throw it immediately, which is pretty good. The protection we have is some Thoughtseizes and Pithing Needles. Obviously have less protection because we're trying to do something else on top of it as well. And our mana bases got some interesting ones here. So we've got Talon Gates, which is an exception that we normally don't play. But we're trying in this one because we need to have a little bit more access to mana if we've got a 4-drop in our deck. So we're doing that sort of thing too. We've got a bunch of rainbow lands so we can cast our spells. And that's pretty much it, really. This is quite similar to what we normally play, except we've got a bunch of the protections for Minsc Boo, so we have an alternative way to win. If you haven't played against Minsc Boo, this card is quite the doozy, so I'm looking forward to jamming our opponents up with this. Sideboard-wise, because we are Rainbow, we can't reliably play Abrupt Decay, so we've got some Force of Vigors and Dismembers to deal with various Blood Moon effects. We've got ourselves some Graveyard Hate, and then we have a nice little package against the sort of blue decks, so we can bring in the Vexing Baubles to turn off their counter spells. We can also use this to hate on some of the combo decks. And then we have Thud. So this is an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, deals damage equal to the sacrifice creature's power to any target. So this means that on our turn, if we're trying to play around white removal, we can just make the Dark Depths on our turn and immediately throw it because we have priority. There's no time for our opponent to remove it then. And that is kind of what we're trying to do with the Thud here. It's just like some extra Minsc Boos for the purposes of throwing against white removal. The reason to play this deck, rather than the classic green-black, is this is going to be better against white removal decks. That's the main thing. However, we will be weaker against Blood Moon decks. And we have less protection, so we might struggle a bit into some decks that have a bunch of stuff that they can jam us up with as well. So there are definitely pros and cons to including the Minsc Boo in the deck here. It's obviously taking a bit of an overhaul of our mana. And if we just spend a load of resources on this and it gets countered, then we don't feel great about that either. But maybe that's a counter spell that our crop rotation can then do its thing with. Alright, remember to like and subscribe if you want to support the channel and see my videos early. For just £1 a month, you can get access to my videos early. And with that plug over and done with, let's start jamming some Turbodepths. Okay, we're on the we're on the draw for round 1, and this hand does not do either of our game plans. So we're going to send this one back and see if we can find something that does do one of our game plans. This doesn't do any of our game plans either, so we're going to be mulligan just like our opponent is. Okay, this does do our game plan here. So we could go on turn 2 if we could keep all our fast mana, but we can't do that because we're on a mult of 5. So I think the plan here is, if our opponent's mulligan that aggressively as well, they're quite likely to be some sort of combo type shenanigans. So I think we're going to keep these, and we're probably getting rid of a Lotus Petal and a Mana Confluence, so we can get a Paducah Bog if we need that to stay alive. Mountain. Vexing Bauble. That's fine. Glad we got rid of the Lotus Petal. That's another reason to keep the Spirit Guide over the Petal there. Okay, so we can go next turn if we have to. If we need to. So let's just deploy the Thespian stage. And then just go as early as we can. Still holding up crop rotation, although our opponent is likely to be some sort of Painter's Servant deck. There is the Painter. It should be difficult for our opponent to combo off here, but not impossible. A Dark Depths. Okay. So we can make a 20/20. We don't want our land to get pyroblasted here. So we want our opponent to tap out. Painter is a very good matchup for the green-black builds of Turbodepths. It's a little bit more difficult for us because we've got a mana base that doesn't necessarily support casting Abrupt Decay, which is a nice catch-all answer that interacts with their combo pieces as well as their moon pieces. Can we just make the 20/20 here? I don't believe we can because of the threat of Pyroblast, which is awkward. A Pithing Needle. Alright, so we can play a Pithing Needle and name Grindstone here. We still have our combo as a surprise for our opponent. This means our opponent just can't one-tap us with a Grindstone. We need to try and wriggle into a spot where we can get through a Pyroblast. So what happens is we make the stage into a copy of Dark Depths. Our opponent waits for that to resolve and then Pyroblast the stage with the trigger on. Right, they're cracking the Bauble. Sure. We know our opponents tap out for something like a Fable, which is certainly a possibility. They're not going to expect us to be able to combo them out. They're trying to go for our Dark Depths right now. Let's make a copy. They got another Pyroblast here. Right, so we're going to turn this Dark Depths into a Thespian stage. And then we have the combo rolled up for next turn as well. And that's both of our opponent's Pyroblast down. And like I said, we're playing around them. Our opponent gave us a spot where they tapped out of one of them. And those Pyroblasts are not being fired into our Pithing Needle. Our opponent's got one card in hand. We get to make a 20/20 before they get to shoot her off the Saga. Fable and Mirror Breaker. Sure. So they're going to get to look at one card and maybe shuffle it around into a new card next turn. And that's basically all our opponent's going to have resource-wise. I think in order to beat the Pyroblast here, we just make the Marit Lage right now. Our opponent shouldn't have a way to interact with it. Pyroblast on our lands works because this is indestructible, so they can't destroy it with a Pyroblast. They could get a hasty Goblin Engineer that goes and gets a Ensnaring Bridge, and then we're in pretty dicey territory. We don't have any mana, so we're a long way off of doing any Minsc Boo things. And eventually our opponent will find a way to beat all we've got, if that happens. But our opponent's got to have it. A Vexing Bauble. This is a redraw. Are you dead or not, opponent? They are dead. Alright. So this is not as good post-board as it could be, but we'll work with it. So we need the Vigors and the Dismembers. There is an argument for having the Faerie Macabres. I'm not convinced we want the Faerie Macabres, though. Pithing Needles are very good here. I don't really want the Thoughtseize. We need to interact on the board with the permanents that are coming down. Urborg is not a thing we have access to in our deck here. And how do I feel about the Talon Gates? That can do some work. The Saga can do some work. The Boseiju is useful here. I don't really want to tinker around with the lands too much. So what are we getting rid of? It could be Lotus Petals, to be honest. I know that we have some mana requirements here, but we need to have spells that can be cast through our opponent's Vexing Bauble. We've got a Force of Vigor and not really much else going on. I think we can do better than this. 1 mana, 2 mana, and then what? We have access to a crop rotation. We're a long way off of doing anything with this hand. I think we can do better. Okay, maybe we're going to have a slow interactive hand. I'm not a massive lover of that, but I think it's acceptable here. 2 cards have got to go, so I guess we get rid of a Spirit Guide and a Dismember here. Alright, there's a mountain from our opponent. A Pithing Needle, you say. I don't know if I want to play this Pithing Needle out, because our opponent might play something like an Urza's Saga, and that might become more pressing in terms of what we need to deal with. We'll see what our opponent's up to, and then we can make some more useful decisions. A Blood Moon. Do we care about this right now? No. This is why we had the Force of Vigor. Eventually, we will draw a green card. So this isn't great under the old Blood Moon, so I'm going to play the Talon Gates, because we don't get coloured mana out of this, and it just dies afterwards. So the Urza's Saga isn't a concern anymore. I think I'm more concerned about just getting one tapped by our opponent's combo. So we're going to name Grindstone here. So we're looking for the Dark Depths, so we can just put it in with no counters, and then we can Force of Vigor away the Blood Moon, and then use that as our combo piece. A Soul Cauldron. That's pretty good. So probably have the Phyrexian Devourer combo. We did see this in the first game. There's not much we can do about that. Okay, we have a Dark Depths. So now, if this Blood Moon leaves play, we win the game. So in order to do that, we require either double Spirit Guide, or we require the green card. Between the rainbow builders, you can board out some of your mana in matchups like this, because your answer to their Blood Moons doesn't cost you mana here. Can't find a green card though. There's a possibility our opponent has something like Dead Gone in their deck as well. There's a mountain and a pass. Okay, we find a green card in our deck with some amount of green cards, and we're playing a Simian Spirit Guide here just to start beating down with. Sure, why not? Exiling for red mana is not a thing we really need. We have plenty of red mana. I don't want to play out the Gemstone Mine because it doesn't do anything. There is a Welder. Okay, we can answer this if we want to, but currently there's nothing in the graveyard that we have to worry about. A green card. Not a green card. Our deck is unable to draw green cards, it would seem. We've got the Superior Clock. It's not really how I want to play this game, but maybe it comes down to that. A Goblin Engineer. Not a massive fan of this game to do its thing. I think we hit the Welder in response. So they can't welder in whatever they go and find. So they could go and get an ensnaring bridge and sit behind that. Or they could get a painter and start blasting our things. Although there's probably less blasts in our opponent's deck post-board in this matchup. We do still have Minsc Boo, which can just make a big guy, start throwing it around. Dragon Engine. Our opponent wants to draw some cards. Understood. A Lotus Petal. Is this a turn that we draw a green card? It could be. It wasn't. Okay. It's got Minsc Boo, Elvish Spirit Guide, other Force of Vigors, Crop Rotation, Sylvan Scrying, whole bunch of things. Our opponent can potentially do the Phyrexian Devourer combo if they have another Engineer. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Sure. So this is the difference between having 4 clean Abrupt Decays to answer your opponent's things, or having just the Force of Vigors and the Dismembers, because you can't answer... Because one of them answers Magus, one of them answers the actual Factual Blood Moon, and we can't just have 4 slots that deal with everything. I brought in Faerie Macabre, which is interesting. Do I think we're more loaming style or not? Once again, I ask myself, is this a turn we draw a green card? It is. Okay. I guess we pass a turn and try and kill our opponent next turn. We might also be able to blow out a play because we get to take another permanent with us on the way out with this Force of Vigor. Alright, Fable, you get some looting on the go. Of a land, that's not really what our opponent wants. A Pithing Needle. Sure, we don't care about that. 1 card left in our opponent's hand. They're going to name Vampire Hexmage, or they're going to name Thespian Stage. Thespian Stage, sure. And they're playing out the final card in their hand. So we are locked to win this one. Well, they can get back. They can get back a Soul Cauldron. Does that do anything here? No. Alright. We have won this one. Because this is green and blue and red. So we just take a hit from the Dragon Engine. We don't want to put this in the graveyard because then it gives our opponent the way to draw more cards. So they have a Goblin Welder under here, so they can start weldering this back and forth using this Goblin Shaman token. So what we want to do here is exile this and this. Or destroy that and that, sorry. So now they can't welder this back. They might have been able to do some stuff in response to our Force of Vigor, but that should just be lethal here and the game. Alright, they're going to unearth their Phyrexian Dragon Engine. So they can't... They've already played a land, so they can't cast Gone here. And a Pyroblast doesn't kill the Marit Lage. I guess they haven't attacked, so they haven't got a treasure token here they can use either. I don't know what they can have for just 2 mana here. They might have Spirit Guide. That might help them cast Gone. They do not have anything, and we win the match. Sure, so even though our build is weaker against Painter than the green-black build, we still managed to take it home because this is a very good matchup. Let's go to round 2. Right, so we're on the play. We have a pretty clean line to what we want to do here. I will keep this. I will play a Thespian Stage and a Pithing Needle. And then if we draw another piece of fast mana, we can just go on turn 2. So we're going to say Wasteland and move on with our lives. If we don't draw a piece of fast mana, we probably play out the Confluence. A Plains. Okay. We are exiling our Pithing Needle. Understood. A Mox Diamond. Alright, our opponent's up to no good over there. Land style strategies tend to be quite difficult for us. A Reclaimer. That can certainly find all manner of nasty things. If we get this Mana Confluence, that gives us access to the Crop Rotation if we need it. And then next turn we can start doing Minsc Boo stuff because our land stuff is not going to work against a deck that's full of Wastelands, Caracas and all that sort of jazz. We can make our opponent play the Caracas tax here. Okay, so let's just cast Minsc Boo. Next turn we can make a 20/20, so this is going to tax our opponent's Caracas. If that's what they're going to go and get here. Just make Boo bigger. Our opponent must have something like a plow here, the way they're thinking about this. Or they might just be busy doing something else on their computer or in their house or whatever. I don't think it's unreasonable to read into some kind of interaction here. Alright. One man in the pool, there goes the plow. Now, the good thing is, every turn we get Minsc Boo, well, we get Boo back. So that's kind of not even trading for half a card, really. Okay, we're seeing a Crop Rotation. Which is going to be for a Caracas. Because then we can just use the Minsc Boo minus here and ruin our opponent, in theory. Actually, that's not true, right? This is, yeah, so this is, we have to sacrifice a creature as part of the resolution of this. So if they have a Caracas, it doesn't work unless they're using it on the Boo straight away. Kind of a weird chicken and egg type situation here. Just a Lush Portico. And they missed their land drop last turn. Alright, they're going for lines of how to win the game rather than stop themselves from losing. Which doesn't really hurt us very much. Right, a Cradle, that certainly helps us out with our own mana concerns. So I'm down for that. That means we can Dark Depths combo holding up crop rotation to interact with our opponent. Unless we're just going to see the Reclaimer cycle away the Yavimaya before we get a chance to use it. A Green Sun Zenith X equals 1. So that's going to be another Reclaimer maybe? It is another Reclaimer. Alright, our opponent's tapping out here. Crop rotation. What are you going to find? Is it a Caracas? It is a Caracas. Just coming up Boo. So we don't get to do what we need to do here. They don't have the Yavimaya anymore. So we have to crop rotate away this Thespian stage now. To get an answer for their Caracas. Which is going to be the Ghost Quarter here. Our opponent gets a land, but they don't have anything to do with it. They don't have another land here. Oh no, they can... No, they didn't float to do any Elvish Reclaimer stuff. Put some counters on the Boo. Do I want this Urborg in play, or do I want this Dark Depths in play? I think I want the Urborg, because things can go awry if we play our Dark Depths out too early. I don't really want to attack here. I think we just pass it over. If they want to send both their Reclaimers in, that means they can't activate their Reclaimers next turn. They will kill the Minsc, but will eat one of their Reclaimers. And then our opponent is just going to be, like, empty-handed, most likely. Just another Zenith is going for this Reclaimer. This is going to be Talon Gates of Madara. Or a Sejiri Steppe, protect your Reclaimer, bash through. Yep, Sejiri Steppe. So they're just going to try and kill the Minsc Boo this way. Understood. Protection from red. Sure. We can't block. Bit of a pity, unfortunately. A Wasteland as well. Our opponent is firing on numerous cylinders over there. Sim Spirit Guide doesn't help us out this turn, I'm afraid. So we're going to go fetch ourselves up a Thespian stage. Deploy the stage. And we attack, because if we end up on a different Minsc Boo line later on, this will help. And they're not going to attack into the Boo anyway. And we can afford to take 6 life. Alright, our opponent's got a Wasteland. Firing off immediately. Sure, not a bad draw, opponent. Not a bad draw at all. So they're doing 1 to hold back, 1 to... Sure, if they've got an Echoing Deeps, they can go and cycle that up. Okay, so we do get to attempt to combo here. We get to see what our opponent shooters up with the Reclaimer first. And then can make a decision. Because the Reclaimer land comes in tapped. See what you find, opponent. So Wasteland, we just make our guy. And Echoing Deeps. Is this going to be on Caracas? It is going to be on Caracas. So, if we... How can we deal with this? If they Caracas our Minsc Boo with awkward timing, we can maybe try and get them with the depths. Kind of wish our opponent had that Yavimaya in play now. So we're probably in a situation where we have to... Madara. What does that actually do for us here? I think we're going to... If we hold back this Minsc Boo... They're just going to bounce it in the end step. If we put it in via just casting it, that doesn't really help us either here. This is a difficult one to puzzle through. I don't think we have any nice tech that helps us out here. I'll bash for 4 and see if our opponent moves on this. They are moving on this. So we could Sejiri Steppe, but it will cost us our crop rotation. That's just not worth it, is it? Alright. I'm going to play this Talon Gates just so we have more mana available to us. And that's a useful thing to have. How are we going to win this one? I don't think we are. Our opponents had too many tutors. We needed just one of those running Wastelands not to hit. That's what we needed. We can't get rid of this because we already used our Ghost Quarter. We need to find a Pithing Needle and name the Caracas. That is our solution to this problem. Okay, Hexmage isn't the worst here. That means we can use our crop rotation for some other skullduggery. So we could crop rotate into a... We don't have Paducah Bog on our list, do we? No. Because otherwise we could Paducah Bog and mess with our opponent's Reclaimer. But they might not want to attack into it. Endurance, sure. That's pretty good. They're going to target us. We're going to lose some graveyard stuff we don't care about. We can Sejiri Steppe to protect our Hexmage, but that doesn't seem like a good idea. Prismatic Ending. What does this do for us? If we crop rotate, so if we hit this, we make a 20/20, they bounce with Caracas. We can't Sejiri Steppe because Sejiri Steppe doesn't work that way. It gains protection from a colour. Caracas is colourless. Is there another way out of this? No, I think we just spent here. Alright, let's go to the next game. Sideboard wise, this is where we get to bring in the Thuds, and they can have some use to us. I also like the Dismembers here because they have a lot of annoying creatures we need to deal with. That's 6 cards in. The Pithing Needles are useful here for sure. The Boseiju is good. I don't actually think we're on the Talon gates here. We're just trying to sacrifice our creatures and hope that's good enough. I don't really want the Thoughtseizes. And we're probably just trimming a couple of petals because these get caught by Vexing Bauble if our opponent's running them. And I think this is a pretty acceptable way. Our opponent's not really running Blood Moon effects. So let's jam with this and see if we can catch our opponent out with a Thud, because you can't Caracas away our guy then. What does this do? Turn 1, Pithing Needle on Wasteland. Turn 2, Thespian stage. Then what? I think we can do better. Removal spell. Removal spell. Maybe draw some lands into Minsc Boo. Is that good? Is that good enough? Doesn't feel great. We don't have the mana for these. We have a lot of decent draws. We don't have any green mana. I think we have to mulligan again. Alright, this hand does one thing, I guess. I suppose we're going for the early Minsc Boo and hope it does the work it needs to. We put this on Wasteland. We generally want that anyway, but also if we're doing Minsc Boo lines, we need to make sure we can actually make our land drops. If we draw any of our fast mana, we can power out this Minsc. But our opponent is likely to beat us just because of the nature of this matchup. Alright, our opponent's accelerating by 2 turns with 2 Mox Diamonds. We can see a Loam here. No. Okay, so playing Dark Depths is off the cards now because they just copy it with their own Thespian stage. We can have a turn 1 Knight. Alright, it's just the Loam, and they pitched the Wasteland and the Boseiju. So they can Boseiju away our Pithing Needle. We don't have anything to find after they do that, so that's pretty bad. Sylvan Safekeeper, we don't care about that. Let's put out this Gemstone Mine. We've seen Prismatic Ending. I think we keep the Petal in hand. I know I did mention that our opponent can have things like the Vexing Bauble, but we have seen the Prismatic Ending, so I think at this stage we probably want to keep this in hand. Do you want to Pithing Needle the Safekeeper? Does that matter? I don't think so. We can Pithing Needle on either Knight of the Reliquary or Elvish Reclaimer if that's what our opponent drops next. Wasteland, we've already got that covered. Greenstone Zenith X equals 3. So this is Knight of the Reliquary. Pretty strong Magic the Gathering card. They don't have anything to sacrifice to it yet, but that doesn't mean that they don't have access to it. A Minsc Boo, is that better than doing Knight of the Reliquary stuff? So our opponent's got 2 cards in hand. We know one of them is... like, they're going to unlock their Wastelands next turn, so we have to make our play here, I think. I don't think it gets better than this for us. Red. Green. 1, 2. Let's make a hamster. Let's grow the hamster. And I think we leave the hamster on blocks to protect our Minsc Boo. Our opponent can dredge life from the loam. If they hit the right stuff, then we're in trouble. Windswept Heath. So that gets them the forests. They can turn it into anything they want with a knight. So Caracas is on the cards here. So they're going to Caracas and Wasteland us. Yeah, what are we supposed to do here? This matchup is abysmal. And I don't think being like the Minsc Boo deck helps that much, because this just plays into the same hate. Alright, so they're copying that, so they have 2 Savannas. So no to this. Sejiri Steppe. So let's play a Pithing Needle and see what our opponent does about it. Yeah, activating the Knight for the Caracas. Now the problem is our opponent has the Boseiju in hand. Do I want this Sejiri Steppe? Is that going to be useful right now to protect something? Or do we need a critical mass of mana when our opponent's wastelanding us? I think that's what we need. Yeah, so our opponent can Boseiju us. Then they can get rid of that Pithing Needle on Wasteland or on Caracas. And then they can Wasteland us. And then they can buy it back with the life from the loam. They didn't dredge it this turn. They're just going to go in and kill the Minsc. Sure. Yeah, this feels even worse playing this build than it does with the green-black. Like, this is not a good matchup for any Turbodepths deck, but this feels even worse than with green-black. And this is the white removal deck where we're supposed to care about that sort of thing. I just think Minsc Boo is a little bit too pricey to do what it does here. That's the match. Yeah, brutal. Let's go to round 3. Alright, this is more like it. I'll keep this hand. We have Urborg into Depths Hexmage. We don't have hand disruption in the same way as you do in the green-black build. So we can't just fire off the thoughts. Like, the dream is turn 1, Urborg Thoughtseize, turn 2, Dark Depths Hexmage. That's like where you want to be here. It's not where we are, but we can do some of that equation. We can do the bit that makes it 2020. There is our Urborg. We're going to be in White Removal Town, are we? Or just... Okay, we are going to be in White Removal Town. A Ponder. We don't have a green source. We can't Ghost Quarter ourselves to get a forest. That's not a thing we have access to in this particular build. So we can't have a Sejiri Steppe. Going to be tough. A Spirit Guide. Well, we have multiple Dark Depths, so let's see where we're at here. Right, we've got the resources to try again. We will need to find something to go with this other Dark Depths, but any green source does that for us. Our opponent has a Wasteland. Not ideal for us. A Thespian's Stage, sure. That gives us some redundancy versus the Wasteland. When you're ordering this, you have to order the Hexmage first, because the Hexmage can't just remove counters off the stage when that becomes a copy. So they have to waste the Dark Depths, and then in response you stage it. Another Wasteland. Okay. It's not going to work for us if we just go for it here, is it? So we're on the slow beats for a little bit. We can try and force the issue with a Ghost Quarter. This might all be for naught if our opponent's got a like Source of Plowshares or whatever. So I think we're just going to carry on bashing until we draw a green source. Sure, I'll attack with this Hexmage. Because we have access to this 2 bonus mana that our opponent doesn't know about, we can get real cheeky here and just deploy another Hexmage. So the way the Dark Depths trigger actually works is, if there are no ice counters on it, you put the trigger on a stack to sacrifice and make it 2020. Alright, our opponent wants to go for this today. So basically, it'll always keep trying to put that trigger on the stack if there's no other version of it on the stack. So you can counter the trigger, then it will immediately come back. We'll play us over Dark Depths. That's one of the Wastelands gone from our opponent. We've also got a clock of 4 damage a turn. I don't want to play into our opponent's removal here. A Ponder, okay. If they shuffle this and that's a little sign of weakness, maybe we jump on them. They did not shuffle. Right, as a sign of strength, I think we're going to carry on with the Hexmage beatdown until it doesn't work anymore. Or until we draw a green source. That's where we're at here, because we can Ghost Quarter this Wasteland. We want to start kick things off. Elvish Spirit Guide. Alright, so we have a plan now. Alright, we've got a 2-turn clock just with our Hexmages though, so it's kind of tempting just to let this slide. It's the Frog. Given our opponent only has 1 Source to Plowshares available here, I think we're going to go to end step and we're going to kick things off here. So the Psychic Frog represents a roadblock, so this plan isn't really going to work that well. Though we can block, they can discard some cards. Well, we can put the first strike damage on, and then they can discard cards, and we can then remove the counters. But then our creature's dying anyway. We just have to discard 1 more card. So I think this is the time to go. I would like to Wasteland our Urborg. Let's tap this for 1 mana. And then remove some counters from this. So we could protect our Marit Lage right now, if we think our opponent's got the Source to Plowshares. Or we could go and try and get the combo again. I think we're just going to let this Wasteland hit. Because we have some pretty surprising amounts of mana here. Hopefully catch our opponent off guard. Our opponent's gone to 7. If they have to chump block with a Frog, that's not the worst for us either. So our opponent has some plow mana over there. So I'm a little bit skeptical about just running this straight in. Alright, our opponent's going for the plow right now. So our opponent have a Force of Negation. They've got a bunch of daisies we can pay. Force of Will is good here. So let's get our Sejiri Steppe. Let's get this protection from white. We'll keep it alive. We don't have any lands left. So they have to block the Marit Lage here. So we send them both in. They can't Solitude this. Yeah, you jump your frog and chuck it right under the bus. We're now exposed to things like Prismatic Ending, but we have ground our opponent's life total down to a few hits with this Hexmage. Then we're going to be saying goodbye to Marit Lage in the very near future. Yep, and it's the ending, so we don't even gain 20 life, which could be useful in this matchup. They like to ending our guy as well. Well, that's pretty bad news for us, and I think we're probably going to be scooping it up in the not-too-distant future. We run through 2 of our Dark Depths. Our opponent is very far ahead of us, and we've got nothing here. These Simian Spirit Guides not doing the work. Whereas if we were in a green-black build, you could be using these. These would be like hand disruption that we could have used earlier on in the game. Yep, there's a Brainstorm. Our opponent's going to stabilize here. Blue and blue. It's going to be a Murktide. And that will kill us in 3 hits. There it is. Big Daddy Murktide. So we don't have many turns to do anything here. We can remove the counters list if we find something like an Urborg. A Yavimaya doesn't hurt either. Okay, so I think we're going to go Scrying here. Go and get our Dark Depths, I think, probably. Our opponent's gone to 4. We can pay through a Daze. We can pay through a Spell Pierce as well. Oh, we're going to get them. I say we're getting them. We're discarding 2 cards to counter their 1 mana spell. They got a Daze here as well, then put me in the dirt. Okay, so it's probably just the Dark Depths here. And then we have a shot to make a 20/20 next turn using our crop rotation. I don't believe our opponent has more counter magic. But we have a Prismatic Ending to play around. We also have Wastelands to play around. Not a lot of good options for us. Right, Lotus Petal. That helps us play around Daze. Dark Depths. So the correct line here is to turn this into a... Is it better to have it as an Urborg? I think it's better to have it as an Urborg, right? Because then we have more resources left and we can maybe top deck a Minsc Boo and win the game that way. Alright, Hexmage. I didn't expect they would have a counter spell since our 2 tutors resolved. So this is the way to play around them drawing a counter spell for turn and then also around them having a Wasteland. To an extent at least. In comes Big Daddy Mercs. We don't have an option here apart from make the thing. We don't want to play into a Prismatic Ending. So we're just going to try and make this an end step and hope it gets there. If we gain 20 life, that buys us enough time, hopefully, to find a Minsc Boo. Is it Stifle? It is a Stifle, yeah. Actually, no. We still win if we draw Minsc Boo here. We don't need to concede. Can we draw it? No. Alright, that's that game done and dusted. Brutal. So this is when I was talking about the plan of having the Baubles and the Thuds. Now the issue is our opponent running Harbinger of the Seas? It's certainly possible, which is then something else we have to consider. So the Thoughtseizes go, we take these out because we bring in the Baubles. We get 1 Dismember if we're doing this line. Maybe we trim a Minsc Boo for a 2nd Dismember, just so we have a couple of answers floating around on our deck. Yeah, so we have less flexible answers in this build because we don't have like just a bunch of hand disruptions, so we can work out what we need to play around, or we can work out what our opponent's... so we can take out the thing our opponent's going to try and beat us with. I just don't like the tools at our disposal here. I also think 4 Minsc Boo is a little bit ambitious. It kind of needs us to run these sort of stinky Simian Spirit Guides. There's a reason why I mainly play blue-black on the channel, green-black on the channel. Okay, we're on the play. Okay, this kind of works. Probably have to start with a Mana Confluence just so we have access to our crop rotation. That's to play around the Wastelands our opponent has shown us already. They're not super quick decks, so we don't have to worry about it that much. There's a Wasteland, sure. An Elvish Spirit Guide, you say? If we wait 1 turn, we can play the Minsc Boo and have the crop rotation up. That seems better to me. 2 Wastelands, you say? Understood. So no Dazes, no Spell Pierces. So this might be the situation where the Minsc Boo runs away with the game. We can but hope. So we want this to be green mana. And this to be red mana. That way we still have the crop rotation sandbagged. We're in with the Minsc Boo. That's quite tasty, isn't it? Alright, let's just make a big hamster and start smashing. Planeswalker is not necessarily the easiest thing for our opponent's deck to deal with. An Underground Sea. Thoughtseize us? No. Alright, we're going blue, so looking at Pondering most likely. Oh no. They're using our own Urborg here to get the Psychic Frog in. You know what actually beats Psychic Frog in combat? is Boo. Let's make our Boo bigger. Let's play out a Dark Depths. Play out a Hexmage. This can remove counters from a Frog if it needs to. I'm just playing like bad Jund right now. But we do still have this 2020 that we can reach for if we need to. So our opponent has the black mana up here. So they could have fatal pushed the Boo. The other option here is to try and play the Hexmage and then remove the counters from the Depths. And try and make the guy... But they have the Wasteland, so it's not really going to work for us. A Daze pitching... a Force of Will pitching a Daze. Alright, we bash for 7. We can make a 2020 using our Spirit Guide. Not really about that life. We hit for 7. See what our opponent does with their turn. I know Wastelands in our own step. Normally with Wastelands what you want to do is wait till you've seen your draw for the turn and have the most information about using them. But because our deck does stuff with our lands in our opponent's turn, they might be inclined to try and Wasteland there so they can get the crop rotation out so we can't like fog this for a turn using like Talon Gates or something like that. Obviously, whether or not they think we have Talon Gates is a whole other question, and they probably don't expect it. But we can protect the Boo here. We can protect the Minsc if we just go and get the Talon Gates and phase out the Frog. If our opponent goes all in on the Frog, we're way more likely to resolve our crop rotation as well. Minsc Boo doing some work. We're going to see a bit of card selection off of a Ponder. We are indeed. Our opponent's taken a long time with this Ponder, which bodes well for us potentially. It might be a very difficult one to try and puzzle through. Well, it might mean there's something that might work there, which maybe doesn't bode so well. But it's not a slam dunk at least. They did not shuffle off that Ponder. An island. What are they going to do to our Minsc Boo? This leaves us with a 7 power guy to attack with. There's 1 counter. That's 2. 3. You got to discard your whole hand if you want to answer the Boo. 4. 1 more. Oh, this is going to be such a blowout. Alright, our opponent knows what's coming, I think. Alright, so we managed to get that one. Let's see if we can do it again in the final game here. I think I'm actually going to bring in these petals again. And take out the Spirit Guides. I think just making sure we have access to green mana is something that's been a little bit sketchy here and there. Would I like this Minsc Boo? I don't think so. Like, we've boarded out some of the mana. I think just 3 is fine. Now our opponent's got multiple things to think about. So that might help us slip in with some Thud action, which we haven't managed to do yet on the channel. Hopefully we can get this done in this match, but we've still got another couple of games to go. So hopefully we can Thud somebody. Alright, we have a hand presented to us here that I think is worth keeping. We can go turn 1, Pithing Needle off the Urborg, turn 2, Hexmage. We might delay that for a turn to play around things like Daze, but we've got some options here. Oh, we're getting Thoughtseize. Alright, so our hand can beat this, but I think they take the Pithing Needle here and Wasteland us up. Depends on what their hand is though. If they don't take the Pithing Needle, we at least get a little bit of a taster of what's in our opponent's hand. If they're operating on Wastelands this game, then they take the Needle. If they're operating on plows and stuff, then they probably take... I don't know, don't really think it matters what they take here. If they've got a bunch of plows. Right, they've taken our quickest route to the combo, which might mean they have nothing over there. Thud. Ooh, big fan of seeing that around. Okay. Means you need to protect our red source. Let's see if we can put this down. Name Wasteland. Prismatic Ending is a problem for us for sure. Another Thoughtseize? No. This is going to be a Frog. Yep, so we're probably going to fall behind quite quickly here. But hopefully the line we have is good enough. A Dark Depths, you say? Alright, I will play out Dark Depths. So we want to find... Lotus Petal would be good here. Gives us the chance to try and Thud. But we do have to worry about counter spells on the other side of the board. They don't know about this Thud yet. Well, they're sculpting, they're drawing extra cards. It should only be a matter of time before they get to beat us. Unless we can cheese it through with this Thud. Which I think is not odds on, but it's still a possibility. They didn't shuffle that Ponder and they have a Wasteland. Well, that is an awkward one for us for sure. They're just drawing these extra cards. If we Wasteland here... if they can't Wasteland here because of our Needle. But they might have something like an ending. But if they fire off the ending, we get to then make our guy. Do we want to try and make our opponent fight over this Dismember? They got 7 cards in hand. They've got to have a counterspell. tucked away in there. I think the plan is to make them fight over a Psychic Frog in their second main phase or their end step. And then we try and Thud around a daze. We have seen Spell Pierce as well, though. We don't want to activate our Dismember now because it won't kill this creature. It will just mean that our opponent has a much bigger creature hitting us. Not a fan of that. Ponder, yeah, you tap your resources low, opponent. You keep that Plow mana open, and we'll see if we can Thud you. I didn't shuffle off that. That's annoying. So they can discard some cards to save this, or they can use some counter magic. Either way, it might help us out, whilst massively accelerating their clock. They've already got 8 cards in hand, so they're definitely discarding at least something. Here, I remember. Alright, Thoughtseize is gone. Stifle's gone. I'm not seeing a Daze gone yet, which is interesting. Alright, another Brainstorm. Alright, so this is our opportunity, I would say. Let's see if we can do the thing. This plays around the Plow that we believe our opponent has by this Tundra that's been held up for so long. Right, they kept a Force of Will to do some real damage to us here. Yikes, and the Murktide's gone as well. We can't play a land yet, so next turn we can play the guy and hope they don't have a Plow. But our opponent's going to be drawing some more cards, they're going to be clocking us for a bunch. Maybe we draw another Thud. Minsc Boo, no longer good because they can just fly over and kill it. And we're not going to have enough mana to deploy the Turbodepths and the Minsc Boo. If our opponent doesn't have a Plow and they just absolutely mind games us, then sure. Alright, so we're going to see a pending on the Needle here. Yep, and then now we can't assemble our combo at all. Yeah, we just don't have the tools I would like to make this work for us. Right, we're losing our Urborg. Not the one I expected. A piece of fast mana allows us to go, but our opponent's almost certainly going to have an answer. Alright, let's get this Pithing Needle on the go. Let's name Wasteland. Let's get a Turbodepths in. So next turn we can make a 20/20 and block the Frog. That is the plan here because it's going to kill us in 2 hits. Our opponent's also very low on clock. I don't think they're going to lose this game to the clock though. Oh, Psychic Frog. Wasteland, we have the protection via the Needle here. Crop Rotation, we sadly don't get to use that for anything just yet. And we do have to make this to block because this is going to be lethal this turn. Alright, opponent. Now we might gain 20 life. Is that where I want to be? Not especially, but sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. Alright, let's pay a bunch of life, which is also a little bit sketchy. Oh, they have a big frog. Right, we're going to see here. They got Borrower. It's a Borrower. Yep, that'll do. If we had a little bit more mana, we'd have been fine, but yeah, felt horrible. The Minsc Boo doing stuff on its own was quite good in the second game, but I think there's a lot of things in our deck that aren't necessarily helping us out in this spot. So yes, we have this stuff that lets us play around white removal, but the problem is we're giving up a bunch of slots in our deck to try and cast Minsc as well, which means that we have far less hand disruption. And I think generally in this sort of matchup, you're better off having some Thuds, but then none of the Minsc Boo type stuff, and like the mana for the Minsc Boo, just having, you know, hand disruption so you know what you're playing around, so maybe you can pick a nice spot. But yeah, alright, that's another match in the books. Let's go to round 4. Welcome to round 4. We are on the play. We have a turn 3, which is kind of slow by Legacy standards, but I think we keep it here. I'm going to play Gemstone Mine out, make our opponent consider things like Dredge or whatever, so maybe they're going to play in a slightly different way. Maybe they're going to leverage doing Graveyard Hate if they have it. Alright, another white deck. Not really where I want to be here. Sejiri Steppe, that being in our hand is definitely not useful. Right, let's play this Yavimaya. Let's cast a Sylvan Scrying. Oh, we did need to remove a count off that. That was just a misclick. Alright. I'm pretty glad that the Force of Will goes on our Sylvan Scrying rather than our Crop Rotation in hand. Another Sylvan Scrying, you say? Click the right buttons this time. There we go. I would like a Turbodepths, please. Maybe we can jam a Minsc Boo and do some work with that at some point. A Turbodepths. Let's get the Hexmage down. Alright. Lots of counter magic getting flung our way. A Gemstone Mine and pass. So we're crop rotating for a Thespian stage. There's no need for us to hang out the Turbodepths now. Probably looking at some sort of Jeskai control deck. Right. Let's see what our opponent's up to. Paying cost for something. A Brainstorm. Sure. We can go for the Slow Thor on the depths. Doesn't strike me as an amazing plan there. Now they've got something they want to do here. A back to basics. See if we can get our crop rotation to do anything here. Like if they Force of Will this, then they're out of interaction. Oh, okay. They just don't have anything and they're going to not make us click through it. Sure. I'll take that. So this is the matchup where we want Thud. We probably want some amount of this stuff, which is awkward because Force of Vigor doesn't play especially well with the Vexing Bauble. But I think just making sure our spells resolve is going to be really key here. I don't believe we're going to need Pithing Needles here, so we can actually cut those and get a nice little bit of help. We're unlikely to want the Ghost Quarter either. So we can strip that one out. We're only one card down trying to fit these things in. So we can keep in all of our fast mana. Maybe we'll take out... I like having Thoughtseizes though, but I think that's probably what goes here. We just have the fast mana and power out our thing. If they have back to basics, we can play through it. It's not like a Blood Moon effect. It just is awkward for us, rather than something that we have to answer before we can win the game. And that's not going to be coming down until at least turn 3, and hopefully we can assemble a combo for if they tap out for a back to basics, we just get to go. Alright, this works, doesn't it? This is a turn 1 with... No, we don't get crop rotation back up if we're doing the turn 1 though. Oh, we're still keeping this. So we won't have a land to sacrifice after we've done our Dark Depths thing. So maybe we're supposed to delay one turn. Do I want to play out a Hexmage right now before our opponent can cantrip towards something better? I don't think so. I think the plan is to, next turn, play the Hexmage and the Depths. We can use a Spirit Guide to play around some soft permission, perhaps. Force of Will is going to be good here. An Urborg. Are we taking it even slower so we can have double crop rotate? So if they counter the first one? Yeah, I can believe that. Brainstorm with the fetch land up, so they're going to get a nice little bit of sculpting here. Let's see how we fare here. Let's get Lotus Petal down. Let's try for the Hexmage. Oh, we're just in, are we? That fills me with some amount of joy. We can beat Counterspell and Path here. Or Plough even. A Brain Surge. So this is going to draw them 2 cards in total in terms of the number of cards they have in their hand. So nice little divination with a little bit of extra fixing in terms of what's in your hand. See if we can get where we need to go here. I think given the protection we have, I'm willing to try this right now. No response yet. Play our land. Go to attacks. Plough their opponent. A Brain Surge. Alright, that's only going to leave them 1 mana. Oh, they got Terminus, have they? That's certainly something, isn't it? So we can Talon Gate and keep our Marit Lage around for a little bit longer. So this is the first time that the Talon Gates is actually becoming relevant. So we'll let them put the Terminus on the stack. And then we will try and get rid of our little friend. Just get rid of our Gemstone Mine. A Force of Will, sure. Let's try again. So our Talon Gates here. Let's phase out Marit Lage. So they can't kill it with sorcery speed removal. It's not going to get killed by this Terminus. And we untap and hope they don't have a Plough. A Ruination, you say? Okay, that costs us 2 lands. And our opponent is holding up a Plough. So we don't have any crop rotation available. They're going to kill us in the upkeep? They are. Okay, so Minsc Boo maybe off the top? No. I don't think we're playing a 2-2 here. I think these are going to be more useful to help us cast Minsc Boo. And potentially follow-up spells. Our opponent is very much over the hump here. Is this going to be a 4th Eolingus? It is. So this is 6 damage. They've got a lot of our life to work through, but the drawing the extra cards is going to do a lot of work while they're just clocking us for 6 a turn. A Minsc Boo. That is the sort of card we need here. And we'll get rid of this Simian Spirit Guide. So the reason we want to have the Elvish Spirit Guide is because it can't be Prismatic Ending from our hand and it produces a relevant colour of mana. Right, we might be losing the Minsc Boo. There's only so much we can do sometimes. Alright, we get a bonus card. That's not the worst. A Hexmage. That might be useful soon. So they can attack the Minsc with 2. Or they can just blow us up in some other way, shape or form. Yep, so they're just going to bounce our Boo. It is tough out there for a humble Marit Lage. There's a lot of stuff our opponent is messing around here. And it's not going to be easy. We're going to need running draws here, which might be difficult with the Jace Fate sealing us. As soon as they start going upstairs with that, we'll probably call it a day. Okay. This can block one of their guys. It can also threaten to destroy the Jace. So we can get some work done here. Because they've got a target, I'm happy to remove the counters off. It means if they try and kill our guy, I'm happy to just say we're at least getting some value here, rather than holding on to for the combo. And we're not going to be able to beat a Jace Fate stealing us when we're one card in hand. Ponder. Now, unfortunately for us, our opponent does have a win condition. 5-turn clock if my maths holds, and they're going to be drawing an additional card every turn. They've got loads of selection in their deck. We're just drawing off the top in a Jund coloured deck that's not really going to have access to any way of manipulating our draws. A Thud. That's not really the one. We can just F6 these turns because we got nothing. Flame of Anor. Sure. Just using it as a draw too. Triumph of St. Catherine. That's going to take a while to get them over 20 life, so I don't mind that for now. We're going to need some pretty good draws though. So this puts us down to 18. Now we're getting hit for 11. So that's a 2-turn clock. So we need to draw the right thing this turn and next turn to have any sort of chance of putting our creature into play. An Urborg. So we have an Urborg. What does that do for us? Nothing. Alright, I think we'll just scoop and go to the next game. Yeah, I'm not happy with what we've done here, but it's a tough matchup when your opponent's got a lot of white removal and some counter spells to stop some of our tutors and key bits and pieces. Now we can obviously win without ever needing to cast a spell because we can just play out lands, which is one of the strengths of our deck as a combo deck. We can just have a turn 3 goldfish that doesn't ever put a spell on the stack. Okay, come on deck. No. This is not the one. This does work, but we have to resolve a crop rotation. How do I feel about trying to resolve a crop rotation here? It's kind of a big ask. I think we can maybe get something with like a bauble or something. Okay, so this requires us to draw one of our common pieces, but it plays around all the things our opponent has, and this is a matchup where we have lots of time. So, Yavimaya we keep, Thespian Stage we keep, Thud and Vexing Bauble we keep, so it means getting rid of Gemstone Mine and one of the Mana Confluences. Alright, let's get our Vexing Bauble in. That'll shut off all the counter magic. So we just need to draw the right lands here, and then we can just thud our way to victory. Now we play this stage, because that might give us a shot to getting towards Marit Lage quicker. A Sylvan Scrying, you say? Let's go for it. Their soft counters work here if they've got spell piercers and stuff, but there's no force of will or force of negation that's going to work. Alright, we've managed to set ourselves up in a situation where we might be able to actually win the game. Be lovely. Right, has our opponent got something here? Is it spell pierce? It is the spell pierce. Oh, okay. I pressed the wrong yield button and we didn't get to play our land drop for turn. That's frustrating. Okay, and it super matters here. Okay, good. So I'm going to play out this Mana Confluence so our opponent doesn't know we have the depths. And hopefully they'll tap out for something and then we can just play through. Our opponent's got 4 cards in hand. They can't cast... What actual things can they cast here to disrupt us? So they could just go untap and Ruination us. So I think we have to do the combo here. And we get to play around removal here, which is probably what our opponent's hoping that they can win this game with. A Brainstorm. Okay. If they can tap out of hardcast Force of Negation mana, that would be really nice. This doesn't strike me as a play of somebody who has the answer right now. So we keep this one. Get our little friend. And then we do some thudding. No Source to Plowshares for you, opponent. Oh no, don't do it to me, opponent. Snapcaster Mage. Oh, they're going to spell pierce it. Ugh. Yep. That's pretty bad news for us. We have to imagine they have a Source to Plowshares in there. Yikes. That is the problem with a Thud. Because at least if you're doing just trying to get through a turn and attack with it, is this going to be a Ruination? So like I was saying, at least if you're trying to get through with an attack, they have to answer it, right? Whereas this way, we've answered it ourselves, and they just have to answer one spell on the stack. Now, so obviously that's a shorter window, plays around removal spells. But yeah, that Snapcaster was brutal. And they're doing Flames of Anor things, getting rid of our little safety net. Yeah, this game is pretty much over now. Elvish Spirit Guide. Are we playing an Elvish Spirit Guide? I think we are. Would I like a Boseiju in play or in hand? I think we like it in hand for now. Sejiri Steppe, unlikely to be that useful since we can't put in instant speed. Back to basics. Well, that's something I'd like to blow up using our Boseiju. I'll play out a Thespian stage and I will pass. I don't think we should be attacking here. We're just using it to buy some more draw steps. We have an answer to the back to basics at least. We just need to find a green source. Imagine if we had a green source like Elvish Spirit Guide, for example. That would have worked. We do have the Yavimaya, so we don't actually need specifically a green source. We just need any source. But it needs to be untapped. And we don't have that yet. A Gemstone Mine. Part of the problem here is it doesn't do us any good to get rid of the back to basics now. Because what is that actually going to change here? Nothing. Until we can actually assemble a combo. A crop rotation. Okay, so now we can get rid of the back to basics. And untap. And try and crop rotate towards the win. Now the brainstorm. I don't know what they can have for this. It's very unlikely to see anything like a stifle here. So I'm imagining that this is going to go through. We're going to untap, we're going to cast a crop rotation, it's going to get counterspelled, and then we're going to lose the game in a few turns. That is my anticipation here. But, you know, there are definitely strings of draws where we win this game. So we have to stick in it and try and grind out the wins where we can. Alright, we don't even need to crop rotate now. Our Sejiri Steppe being in play is obviously a pain. That's just a thing that happens sometimes with the deck. So they can cast instant speed prismatic endings, which is not going to be a good sign for us. Red, white, blue, a Brain Surge. Our opponent's nearly halfway through their deck. Getting a Sejiri Steppe isn't actually that good here, if we could, because the crop rotation is blanked by the Teferi. We don't really have any other options here. That's not going to get much better for us, so we just jam and hope that our opponent's missed with their 7-card hand that they've been selecting for the whole game. Can I have a 2020? How long can I have a 2020 for? That is a better question. Ooh, this is actually a useful thing here. Attack our opponent. What fresh hell is this going to be? A Terminus, you say? Well, we're fighting the good fight here. Let's put our Talon Gates into play and protect our Marit Lage. I didn't think I had any instant speed shenanigans, did you there, opponent? I'm sure they have plows and endings and all sorts of stuff here. Oh, they're tapping. There's the plow. Well, we gained 20. That's not the most fun for us. We're a long ways off of doing what we need to do to win this game. I hope our opponent can just cast Ruination and put us out of our misery. But for now, we can still draw Minsc Boos and stuff like that. Trace the Mindscape. So I guess we're not drawing any good cards. That's what my opponent is telling me right now. So we could just go and fetch a... Right, that makes life a little bit easier. Go and fetch a Dark Depths here. And just start thawing naturally. It takes us 5 turns. Alright. Doesn't take us 5 turns. Alright, opponent. Please put me out of my misery. Right, they're doing Teferi stuff. Just have a win condition. Just cast a 4th Theolingus, and I think we can scoop that one. They're going upstairs with the Jace. They are. I don't know if they put it on top or bottom, because it doesn't really tell you here. Okay. We'll just go again. Do some more thawing, hopefully. Got another force. They're going to be hard casting forces all up in our business here. Alright, they're drawing cards. They don't have the answer to it. A Triumph of St. Catherine. Yeah, we're not going to be able to beat that. Because they're going to be able to get enough life. I think we can just call it a day there. Because that gives them enough life so that all their sorcery speed bounces online and we can never get through then. Alright, that was miserable. Let's go to the final round. We are currently 1-3. So a pretty poor record. And this kind of shows you why I don't like these rainbow lists. Although this rainbow list is a little bit more out there than the general rainbow lists. Alright, let's go to the final round. See if we can at least scrape a 2-3. Alright. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of a problem with my recording here. And it didn't capture the first game of this final match. So we were playing against green-white lands. We had a little bit of back and forth, but our opponent had the crop rotation for the Caracas, and we just kind of got buried, really. Difficult matchup. We nearly squeezed our way through using a Pithing Needle, but couldn't quite make it. So, we're against the lands matchup. This is where we're going to want some Thuds again, because this gives us access to dodging their Caracas, which is one of the key things we want to be dodging here. They didn't show us any Elvish Reclaimers, it was all just explorations, so we probably don't want any Dismembers. There is an argument to having some Force of Vigor. It can blow up the Urza Saga, which allows them to keep doing their thing and getting the things they want. So we don't want these Thoughtseize, they just become Thuds. Now, if we want to put these Force of Vigors in, how are we going to get there? If we're worried about our opponent having access to Caracas, Minsc Boo kind of helps, but also doesn't, because they can just check our guy every turn. But at least it gives us a sack outlet. I don't think we can play the Force of Vigors. I think we just need to go in with as much mana as possible and try and blitz our opponent really quickly. Not a good matchup. We've been having a lot of bad ones today, but maybe I can get this to 3 games to make up for the... Okay. I was going to say to make up for what happened with the lack of coverage of the first game of this match. Alright, I'll keep this one. Let's Sylvan Scrying ourselves a Dark Depths. Our opponent is on notice. The fact that we played out the Urborg is probably telling them that we have a way of doing a Marit Lage next turn. Let's see how good our opponent's start is. A Wasteland. Not a bad one. It's going straight for the Lotus Petal. Not the Lotus Petal, sorry, the Urborg. Sorry, just looking at this Lotus Petal and my brain switched off for a second. I will play a Mana Confluence and a Lotus Petal. Am I going to deploy this Hexmage now? This plays around Wasteland better, and we have 2 of them, so it's probably not the end of the world if one of them dies. They're not going to waste a plow on our Hexmage, so I'm okay to play this Hexmage out, I think. Okay. Just saying there's a chance. Are we playing around the 3rd Wasteland, or are we playing around any green source Caracas? Like, we don't get to really play around the Caracas here, because of the way our hand works. We just have to send it and hope our opponent doesn't have the thing. The fact they aggressively use these Wastelands on things that aren't our combo pieces makes me think they have a 3rd Wasteland. Horizon Canopy, Crop Rotation, put us in the dirt. Here it comes, feeling my bones. I bet they have a Wasteland in their hand as well. But I guess the Crop Rotation can be a Wasteland. Yep, if we had something like Not of This World in our deck instead, then we'd be alright here. But that's not the world we're living in, unfortunately. Okay. It's probably the mine here, isn't it? Can cast our Hexmage, can cast our green spells. If our opponent casts a Life from the Loam, we can probably just pack this one up. Alright. Urza Saga is not a Life from the Loam. Morgul Knife, what is this? Oh, Shadow Spear, okay. I absolutely hate these cards where they have a different name on the top. Why not swap them around so it's still the same name but then has the flavor name underneath? That'd be visually a lot better. Alright, we've got a Thud. So we can beat the Caracas if we can make our guy with the mana spare. But we are a ways from that. And we are probably going to get jammed up in the near future by whatever comes out of this Urza Saga. Could be a Pithing Needle. Our opponent has their own Thespian stage. So they can just stop our combo. They can make their own 2020. But if they do that, then our Thud becomes really good, potentially. Unless they want to interact with it. Right, discarding a Boseiju. No Life from the Loam at least. A Minsc and Boo. I guess we're going to put this Talon Gates of Madara into play. I would like to cast this Hexmage. Sure, you got a construct. Once we start gaining life, it's going to be very difficult for us to get over the hump because we're not going to be able to just kill them in one swing or have this Thud be enough. So we're probably going to need our Minsc Boo to do some work, but how much work can it realistically do when they're going to have ever-growing constructs? So this can be a 5-5 this turn. Plus they have the equipment to stick on it as well. Our opponent's going in on it, so there's no Caracas for a turn at least. A Pithing Needle, naming Vampire Hexmage, I imagine. There it is. They've got a land, so they can equip the knife. What am I calling it? Knife? The Shadow Spear. They're not equipping. That suggests to me that our opponent has yet more stuff to mess with. A Boseiju. So what is our plan here? We could Boseiju away the knife so that they can't gain life, so that our Thud is still live. That is going to leave us dead in not many turns. But we can chump block with the Hexmage. I think that is the play here. We only do that if they equip it, though. I suspect they will equip it this turn. No. We take 10 here. Then we take 10. We get rid of the needle. And that way we might be able to draw into what we need here. So if we find the Dark Depths this turn, we can go off and try and thud our opponent from 17. The fact they didn't use the mana at any point to equip the Shadow Spear kind of makes me scared. Because when I play like this, I tend to want to just get that hit in and get that life above 20. So that just gives you a whole turn to work with. Oh, the mana. The mana is so bad. Oh, this is an absolute kick in the teeth here. Okay, so our plan is Sylvan Scrying. Get the Dark Depths. It doesn't tap for mana. And now this Talon Gates doesn't give us the red mana we need to thud our opponent. Ugh. This is real bad. We're just dead next turn. There's nothing we can do about it. Sure, they're getting a 20/20 of their very own. I don't see how our opponent can mess this one up. So we can block here, but we can't because of the Caracas, and then we die. Yeah, we had the Thud. We just couldn't tap for the red mana. Yep, absolute whitewash there. A terrible 1-4 league, but there's some good reason for that we're going to get into in the debrief here. So fundamentally, on my big primer, which is on my Patreon about different Turbodepths deck, this is not what a rainbow deck looks like for me. We don't bother with the Minsc Boos, and we don't bother with the Simian Spirit Guides. So in order to play these 8 cards, you're getting an alternative threat that is difficult to cast, and we're giving up the protection to do the thing that our deck does. Minsc Boo does not win the game. Well, it can win the game on its own, to be fair. But it's not the be-all and end-all it used to be when it first jumped into Legacy and it was just smashing everyone up. But this card, whilst it can win the game on its own, it doesn't win the game in a different way, right? It makes a legendary creature that can be Caracas. Like, this gets checked by Caracas, so does our main combo. Now, this isn't as bad versus removal, because they remove your guy, it comes back. You remove your guy, it comes back, and then you can eventually grind them through. And I think we did that once and got enough damage through with it. However, this is such a big cost to play this card. And we're losing more tutors, because normally I'd have an additional Sylvan Scrying. We're losing hand disruption, which can make sure that our thing sticks. It can stop us getting killed by stuff. It lets us know what we need to play around, which is a huge part of this deck. Information is everything. And we also lose the Not of This World, which if we'd have had at various points in this league, we would have won the game. So I am not a fan of this deck. Our deck is very hyper efficient when you're trying to play the Turbodepths deck. Like, we have to run things like Pithing Needle here, and rather than Stifle. Once upon a time, you used to see Stifle in these decks, in the Rainbow builds. It's too slow now, because you need to have that extra mana held up when you're trying to combo off, and that's just too much. You need to drop your Pithing Needle first, because you can drop your Pithing Needle on 1, combo on 2, and then you've got your Wastelands covered. You don't have to hold up your Stifle to deal with Wasteland, and the Pithing Needle can deal with every copy of Wasteland as well. So this list just doesn't work for me. Now, does that mean Rainbow Depths is bad? No. I think Rainbow Depths is fine. But I think what you need to be doing is turning these cards into another tutor, some more hand disruption, and some Not of This Worlds. So it's going to look pretty much like the greenback list, except you can have a different mana base. Why do you need a different mana base, you ask? Well, that's where we get Thud. Thud is a good card. We definitely had loads of spots where it could have won us the game today. So you can certainly see where the use of that comes in. And this is the place where you get to run it. But if we didn't have, this sort of stuff weighing us down, we'd be in much better shape. I also, whilst the Talon Gates did some stuff, I don't think it did enough, right? If this Talon Gates was a Not of This World, let's say, instead of protecting against some removal, we could just, instead of protecting against removal for one turn where our opponent then gets to have their turn and carry on, we can just say, nope, we just get to slam through, so we can just dodge plows. Now, this was good at dodging a Terminus, but the way we're supposed to beat Terminus with our deck is comboing in our opponent's end step and attacking them, and then having hand disruption to make sure that isn't the thing we get caught out by. So these tools are just too much of a blunt instrument when we need a bit more finesse with hand disruption and Not of This World. That's my take on this build. I think if you were to, so if we were to actually do the numbers here, so let's turn this into, oh, we just moved that over a little bit too much there. So if we were to turn this into a Thoughtseize, and then we would turn these 4 into a Not of This World, we then get Sylvan Scrying, so we've got a little bit more tutoring. And that leaves us with 2 more discard spells, and that's pretty much the stock list with the 6 discard spells main deck. And then all of a sudden, we're playing stuff on turn 1, ready to combo on turn 2. Instead of like, okay, we got a bunch of fast mana, but what can we actually do with it, right? So we've got that going. Then we've got, you know, our Minsc Boos are going to be Not of This World, so we're going to be able to protect our combo quite well. It especially is useful in early comboing turns. We'd also turn this Talon Gate into a Boseiju Bog. I think when you've got a silver bullet in your deck that isn't going to be trying to make you win the game, but try and make you not lose the game, that is where I like Boseiju Bog, because someone like a Karakas, yeah, maybe you could like bounce their Attracts or whatever. They've already drawn a bunch of cards. Maybe you bounce their Emrakul. Like, you know, we're talking about show and tell matchups and stuff. Yeah, that can be okay. But if you're tutoring for that Karakas, you're taking yourself further away from the combo. And then your opponent's just having a chance to wail on you the turn after. Whereas against a lot of graveyard decks, if you Boseiju Bog it, that's it. That's them done for a few turns. Or, you know, that might be the game if they're like an all-in dredge deck. Or they've, you know, the Black Red Reanimator deck. They are going to kill you basically by reanimating that thing. So having a big haymaker like that is really important. So I much prefer having the Boseiju Bog in there if that's going to be one of my only lands I have that isn't furthering my own game plan. Because obviously the Boseiju can blow up our opponent's stuff. So can the opponent's stuff that's stopping us. Same with Ghost Quarter. And the Sejiri Steppe is protection against our opponent's removal. So I think that's where I would look at. I might even... No, I think we do still want the Yavimaya here. But yeah, that's kind of where I would be thinking with this list right now. Obviously, I am still a much bigger proponent of the green-black Turbodepths. I think one of the reasons it's so good is you just get 4 slots for your sideboard instead of these 6. Instead of having the 3 Dismember, 3 Force of Vigor to deal with Blood Moon effects, you get 4 Abrupt Decays. So you get to bring in all 4, and it doesn't matter if your opponent has Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon. Because when you have these, you can draw the wrong ones, right? But we've got 4 of them, so that's 4 shots to draw the right one. And that's just a better way of playing the game out. Now, the bonus side of these is that you don't need to have any coloured mana. Now, obviously, the green-black Turbodepths deck I've played for a long time. I've been jamming it for years, obviously. On the channel, I've been playing it a whole bunch, and if you've been watching it, you'll see me just smash through Blood Moon decks like nobody's business. And that's because if you know you're playing against a Blood Moon deck, you alter the way that you're thinking about your opening hands, about the way you're fetching your mana, how you're using your petals and spirit guides. You're saving them for your Abrupt Decay mana unless they're going to win you the game right there. So just having access to the Abrupt Decays feels a lot better than having to split this, and that gives you 2 more sideboard slots, so you can actually adjust your sideboard with, you know, have a little bit more discard here, you know, go up on your Collector Ooze. It just gives you that slight more bit of interaction, which I think is really handy here. I also am a big fan of the Once Upon a Time build in the green-black Turbodepths, which looks a bit like this, but we trim a little bit of hand disruption stuff and one of the Not of This World to get 3 Once Upon a Times, which gives us, on average, it's about half a turn to 3/4 of a turn faster than otherwise. So you get to have front foot forward and try and win, which is what you need to do to beat some of the bad matchups. We need to just go underneath them before they set up. You know, your Maverick, green-white Depths, lands, or, you know, these big blue-white control decks where eventually they're just going to have a whole grip full of Swords of Plowshares and stuff like that. That is where the Once Upon a Time build shines quite nicely, in my opinion, and I'm a big fan of that. But yeah, if you want any more thoughts about this deck, by all means just get in touch. I have a Discord, which is in the description below, which is also the official Turbodepths Discord. Surprise, surprise. As well as being the channel Discord. And if you want loads of more details, I obviously have a Patreon, which is, I think it's a 52-page guide to playing this deck. Obviously not this particular version, but just Turbodepths in general. So I do go over Rainbow and Green-Black. So it's got a lot of good stuff in there. And I think that will do us for today. Apologies for missing the recording a bit in the last round there. Technical difficulties will occasionally happen. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. It does help the channel and doesn't cost you anything. And goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.